Welcome to my shop of horrors. There's a little baby waterfall right there. I'm not quite walking in the woods, but I'm walking adjacent to some woods, so how about that? I started filming a few days ago, kind of my video testimony where I talked about how I became an Orthodox Christian. Then I filmed last night. Hear that? It must be 8:30. I set that alarm right before Pascha, which is Orthodox Easter, which is the same as Western Easter this year. And I did that so I could wake up on Holy Saturday in the evening and get up and go to church, because us Orthodox have our Easter service at midnight. And I wanted to get up in plenty of time to get over to church and not have to fight for a parking space. There's way too much traffic out here. I mean, this is a road that doesn't have broadband internet or municipal water or garbage collection service, but we have all the traffic of any other suburban hellscape. We could at least have some broadband. So anyway, getting back to my thing I filmed a little bit ago about how I became an Orthodox Christian. Then yesterday, I filmed about Greek organs, Greek Orthodox church music, and the adoption of organs. And I really didn't like the video because I was real scatterbrained. And then I talked about how I still have PTSD from North Hills. And I have loaded that video online, but I haven't published it yet. It hasn't gone live. In order for me to make a video that I would be okay with what I recorded last night, I would really have to do a lot of editing and chopping, and I don't want to do all that. So I'm going to attempt to just run my mouth here and hopefully come out with something bordering on cohesive thought. So here we go. I talked a little bit about this the other day in my first video. I'm calling it my video testimony. The first time I went to an Orthodox church, I was not expecting to hear an organ. Check out this fence here. I love those kinds of fences. That's just a cool style of fence. It's like I'm out on the ranch or something. Anyway, squirrel. Yeah, I went to a Greek Orthodox church. It was the first Orthodox church I ever went to, and I was not expecting to hear an organ or mixed choir. I was expecting to hear this very cool, otherworldly chant, which is Byzantine chant, which I did hear some of that during the Orthros service, or Matins, as you might know it is. If you're not familiar with Orthros, it's the same thing as Matins. And that was really cool, man. I mean, the words and the theology was so rich. It was like a, I don't know what to compare it to, but it was amazing. It was rich. It was bold. It was really good. I mean, like for a hungry, starving soul, it was just like the best rare steak with fine wine. Except that, like, I wasn't Orthodox, so I couldn't take communion. I shouldn't compare that to steak, and I didn't even mean to. So I was not comparing it to steak. And really, and that's probably not the best thing to compare it to, but just imagine like a hungry soul that's been starved, going into an Orthodox church and hearing that rich, beautiful theology, Oh man, it was amazing. I mean, just like that was just like, okay, this is a church I need to be a part of. Like those words, so powerful, you know. And then after the conclusion of the matins or orthros, the Divine Liturgy began. And Divine Liturgy is divine. It's heavenly worship, the way worship is supposed to be. Not like they do at some horrible contemporary non-denominational hand-raising church. That's what I should call it, a hand-raising church, you know, because they act like they're at a rock concert. Anyway, getting back on topic, the Divine Liturgy is divine. And the music was different. I wasn't expecting that. They had a mixed choir, which if you don't know what that means, men and women singing in harmony, you know, like 4-part harmony, you know, like soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and organ accompaniment, which I was also not expecting. I didn't know much about Orthodox church music, but I knew enough to know that I wasn't expecting to hear that. Didn't have a problem with it. In fact, I thought the choir was nice, but it just wasn't what I was expecting. So after the liturgy, I told the choir conductor that I thought the music was beautiful, and of course I was just so like blown away by the richness of the theology. And you know, they weren't just like talking in very vague terms about how God is good and makes them happy. No, it was just like hitting you in the face with like rich, deep theology. Like so deep you can't see the bottom of it. And it was so I was just really, I don't know how to describe it. It was awesome though. So, you know, and I told the choir director, conductor, whatever, that I really liked the music, and she was just like, oh, you're being too nice and stuff. It's like, no, you guys were great. You know, I was used to hearing, you know, just the worst singing that it's possible for somebody to do in a contemporary church. So they might not have been on top of their game, but I was more than willing to forgive them for that. It was great. Organ pun that I didn't even think about. So we'll get on to that. Like I said, mixed choir, singing in harmony, organ accompaniment. I wasn't expecting it, but it didn't really bother me because the music was so rich. Oh man, I don't know what to compare it to. There's just not a thing that I can say to compare it to. Like, imagine the best steak you ever ate. You know, the best steak you ever ate is nothing compared to that. I don't know what to compare it to. It was just like, imagine getting a glimpse of heaven and like seeing the angels and everything. I was kind of like that. So anyway, that's my first Orthodox liturgy. It was just like, and somebody said, oh, you should visit these other churches to make sure you're sure you want to be Orthodox. Dude, I already know I want to be Orthodox. You know, I went and saw a Latin Mass, and it was beautiful, very heavenly, very reverent. I absolutely loved it. I could say a lot of the same things that I say about Orthodox Divine Liturgy, you know. But, and then I went to a modern Mass, and, oh man, it was like slightly less horrible than North Hills. And I was just like, I'm not going to leave North Hills to go to this, you know. And then there's the Greek Orthodox Church with that beautiful liturgy that I just described, how it was like heaven, and the words were so rich. And in the Greek Orthodox Church here in Greenville, they do the liturgy in both Greek and English, so it's so you can kind of understand what's going on if you don't know Greek. Also, there's a book you can read, and it has everything that you're gonna miss. So you're not totally lost if you go there.